Conservation Commission meeting on December 13th, 2023, and present at Evelyn.
Evelyn, oh, sorry, Evelyn Miller.
Collins Adams, Select Board Representative.
Patty Gale, Planning Assistant.
Jean Walker.
Amy Pollock.
David Neiman.
Andrew Chaplin.
Billy Cunningham.
Okay, first on the agenda, we have O'Leary family, Little Trust, Maria and Leslie O'Leary, applicants, owners, seeking a variance to add a deck expansion to connect the existing deck located on the back of a single-family home to the existing landing entry located on the front side of the house. A variance is required for a deck to locate 23 feet from the defined surface water, whereas a 100-foot setback is required per section 13.3/3+5 of Goffstown zones. This deck expansion will not encroach any closer to the defined surface water than the existing deck is currently located. But whereas the deck will be expanded within the 100-foot wetland surface water conservation district setback, a variance is required. The property located at 103 Danish Park Road, map 25, lot 11, zone residential -2 and wetland surface water conservation overlay district. We have anyone here to,
So they're new to this.
So you
You're
guys
there,
want to
sir.
You
come
wanna
up
come
to
up
this
to-
table right there and
Come
just
up?
kind of
Alright, sure.
explain your
kind of
deck?
explain what you're going to do.
Well, I can't believe they never had steps to going onto the deck anyway. You have to go through the house just to get on the deck. You know, it's like, so we thought it'd be cool, just, it's only goes out like 8 feet, you know, parallel, to tie it into the steps. It wraps around the chimney. So that's what we're thinking, just, might as well, so it's, you can go off the deck and go outside, you know, instead of going through the house. And it gives us another egress outside, instead of, we have one door upstairs to go in, and you have to go downstairs for the second exit. So it's like, that's like a safety thing too in my brain. I can probably climb over the deck anyway, because it's not that big.
Can you just state your name for the record?
Oh,
He said-
I was wondering why, what
You
you guys looking at me like, what is he
You
doing?
started talking.
No, I'm sorry,
right
you're
away.
Leslie O'Leary.
And,
Marla O'Leary.
okay, thank you.
See, I sat here too long being quiet. It's not
I
me.
know, you're ready to go.
So
Sorry
there's a
about
safety
that.
aspect associated with this, as it provides a secondary means of access and egress.
That's just one of the things I thought would be great, because it's an old home, it's built in the 1950s. So the steps just to get downstairs are dangerous. You have to go down the cellar to go out the back door to get out. But that wasn't really our first thought. I just thought it'd be cool to be able to get on the deck and be outside. Like if you have family over, they're outside, and you're outside grilling, or they're grilling downstairs. It's just cool that, you can run downstairs and say
But
hi.
it really gives you a second access?
Yeah, it will definitely give us a big access.
That's really important.
Well, that, actually,
That's
that
the
is
important-
really important.
That's the
actually.
important part.
I know, I
If
thought
you have a
about that
fire,
after I thought
you'll
about the
find out.
steps. But, no, it's honestly, it's tough.
Yeah.
If there was a fire,
Yeah.
you know, I can probably climb down there, but then I have to bring the dogs down, and you know what I mean?
No.
So I'd rather be able to just
Yeah.
run out that door, go down the steps.
And it's no closer to the water or anything. Does anybody have any questions on this?
Seems pretty straightforward.
So to explain, they have a deck, they're gonna expand from that deck, go around the house towards the road and connect to the landing that enters the house. It
Here's a
gives them
picture
two
too, if you
two
guys
means
want.
of egress.
Oh, they have a picture, okay.
Yeah, they do, they have the little ones that she.
We have, yeah,
Okay, cool.
So it does give them two means of egress, so.
Gives you a
To me,
second
that's a
egress.
positive for
okay.
safety.
Oh, yeah.
So does it not bring it any closer?
No,
Doesn't
it's
bring it
not
any
any
closer to
closer.
the water, so,
But because it stills within
Right,
it,
right.
they had to come in.
okay. Do we have any other comments or concerns? Do we have a motion on this?
And you need to make a they have to go to the zoning board of adjustment, and they're here for us to make a recommendation to the zoning board.
Does anybody-
I move we recommend the zoning board approve the application because it doesn't have any greater impact on the river. It's not any closer to the river than it was before, and it seems like an important safety and functional upgrade to the house.
Second.
Second on that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
You're done.
So
You're
that's.
welcome to stay
Thank you
if
for
you'd
coming,
like.
thank you for coming in, Bill.
Probably drive you guys crazy. But no,
And
thank
I
you
will
very
give
much.
them the
Appreciate it,
comments,
though.
so they'll
This
have
is the
it when
first
you
time I
go
ever
there.
came to a town hall thing. Usually,
Thanks for coming, we appreciate
But
it.
thank you, we do
We
appreciate you
appreciate the
coming
folks
in.
showing
No,
up.
thank you.
And actually, the safety element's gonna be really important too.
Oh, yeah, no, I brought that up too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
So, next do we,
Thank
You too.
okay. We have any corrections and acceptance of the minutes from November 15th?
No.
Do you want a motion on to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we accept the
Do we have a
minutes.
second on that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay. We had correspondence with shoreline permit, and we want to thank Alan Garfield for participating on the Piscataqua River as a volunteer worker in this committee. He's resigning.
Yeah, and I also
Also,
want to
I wanna
add,
go- oh.
yeah, they want to know if anyone's interested on the Conservation Commission to fill in that vacancy. They can make, the select board can make a recommendation. They're asking both planning and both conservation.
So if anybody does, just call you.
Well, just anyone here now?
Yeah, but
I mean,
Because you guys would need to make a recommendation to the select board.
I would love to, but I think if I volunteer to serve on one more board or commission.
wouldn't be good.
Home life would get a little more uncomfortable.
You'd be homeless. If anybody is interested and they're not sure right now, but give it a thought, and we can recommend them to go on. Okay, we do have, there's going to be some cutting on Merrill Road, but I think we also have a letter from Namaski because we have budgeted, as the notice says, what do we have, 13?
Can we go back to the
And they want
the
40?
scenic road? I
Oh,
wanted,
Yeah.
the tree cutting?
does anyone have any, because that's on the agenda for the planning board tomorrow night. Does anyone have any concerns? I can tell you DPW did recommend, because a lot of the trees are dead and there's actually, some of them look like they're gonna fall.
Yeah, I went out and looked at them, and they have been decimated by the emerald ash borer. I mean, they are
They need to go
gone.
before they fall? Okay.
So there's no, when at the meeting tomorrow, I wanna relay that you have no concerns with do you wanna make like a recommendation, like you have no concerns, or, I don't know if anyone's looked at it? No comment?
No comment.
No,
I
all I
haven't.
know is,
I haven't really looked at it, but is it all just the dead trees,
Yeah.
the dead ash? Because dead ash are everywhere these
Okay,
days.
just no comment.
Yeah.
so that, I'm sorry,
I have no
walking through
concerns
the
for dead
woods.
trees, but
So
prefer they
what-
don't cut down live ones, just.
Well, I don't
out of
know if that's,
principle,
if
but-
there's like a tree growing with a line or something, I don't know. They did mark them. So what am I saying? You discussed, we don't really have any
I thought,
comments.
if my memory serves me correctly, there were 2 that were questionable. But when there's that many who have been already hit by that invasive species, they're gonna be goners in a year or 2. That emerald ash borer works fast.
It's just ash trees they're removing?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
then, yeah,
yeah.
that's, no concerns for me.
So no concerns?
Okay, and
concerns.
we should just see where, it was requested from Nebraska, that's the next one. And we, in our budget, I think we have 13,500, and they are kind of asking for 40,000
That's the total of what
total,
they'd be looking,
what they're
possibly.
possibly looking for, and it stands right now, we don't have that kind of money.
They're not gonna get that, I'm sorry.
And what did the budget committee cut from our budget? They cut our budget, did they not?
I don't know if they did this year, but last year they did. Our budget's 13,500.
And how much of that is just for our regular
You
business?
know.
Operations.
Without the milfoil, how much do we go through in a year?
Right.
You're pretty low. You're like, I want to say like around 3,000.
Yeah, that,
You are pretty low.
now you're saying this is Namaski, what does Glen Lake get?
I don't know.
The Glen Lake hasn't
They
submitted
haven't
any.
set theirs yet, but it's not
It's
anywhere near
not
40.
final. I did let him know that we would not be able to contribute that large of a proportion.
have
And
it.
they would have to probably go to their association for the dues. And if they do come in a quote, they shouldn't just go ahead because they don't even know how much the state would provide either. It's-
And then are they also going to Manchester?
They may,
They
they did
got
last
some
But I-
time.
last year.
They didn't use any funds this past year. We gave, the money that we gave them, they returned to us. They never,
Wow.
needed to, they did no
So
treatment this
have they
year.
had anybody go in to do an inspection and give an estimate, or are they just coming up off the top of their head? that
Someone
they-
went in, someone had looked at it and said that you're, with the treatment. I
So,
thought-
are they spraying pesticides or herbicides?
I was gonna ask that. I assume that was a typo
Okay.
and they meant herbicide, but it would be
Herbicides.
good for clarification.
Yeah, I'm
because it
sure
does
it's
say
herbicides.
pesticide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what? are they-
And that's
Putting
from
out-
his email, that's, you
Like,
know.
what?
Milfoil's evolving in ways we didn't anticipate.
Sorry, say that in the daily.
Yeah, that's his email.
Legs and wings now.
At
Yeah.
this point, we've already,
Now it's
we've
fine.
already, we have our budget already set, and we don't have other funds beyond what we have already told them we had, unless,
Well, it's a new year, so when they come in and they have a quote, we should then take a formal vote. This is,
Right.
this is
this
just,
is just to tell us ahead of time.
ahead of time, what a quote he was given could look like.
And unfortunately, this is post, we already did our budget for 2024,
Yeah.
so we
But-
can't change it
But they
now.
don't know exactly if this is what they're gonna need either.
Right, right.
Yeah, see, when they go out and do the, surveying of the treatment is after our budgets. So our season, so we have a certain amount in between the two of them,
The cycles are off.
Well, I think what we're saying is we don't have that money in our budget this year, and they need to go to their association, and they'll do what they can.
When they know exactly what they do
Yeah.
need to.
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay.
don't think we need to say much at all, other than this is what we have in our budget, period, end of discussion. Because they don't know what it's gonna cost. They
Right,
don't know what's coming from the other sources. Nobody knows anything at this point.
no, it was just the beginning,
Yeah.
he was just giving us a heads up of what he was told.
Okay,
Now he's had our heads.
then we are down to where David. Unless somebody has
Stewardship and
something.
open space. Let's start with open space first, that's more fun. So the Sugar Bush Farm project, that's the Shows property on Route 113. That's the official name, Sugar Bush, because it has always been known as Sugar Bush Farm. A purchase and sales agreement was signed, and which is why it's now a public discussion, and instead of no longer need to do any non-public. We had put in, and I've been to the select board a couple weeks ago to brief them on the project, and got a warm and wonderful supportive reception, so, which is what I thought would happen. And several grant applications have been submitted. The first application that went in, because this calendar it falls on, the schedule falls on, was LCHIP. And LCHIP has now released their public results, and I'm happy to inform you that we received the LCHIP
Wow.
funds that we applied for, the full amount we requested of $150,000 to go towards this project.
Wow.
The purchase price, by the way, of the project is $460,000, which is a substantial bargain sale from its appraised value of $750,000. There's the LCHIP, it was very competitive this year, because even after they did the initial screening, they had $7.3 million worth of requests, but only $3.7 million to give out. So only about half the applications got funded, but we got funded in full.
I was gonna say, wow, yeah.
Well, we had a really, really strong application, because there were so many positives in this project, including protecting prime farmland soil, protecting a working farm.
Wildlife Action Plan?
I'm sorry.
Wildlife Action Plan? Does it
Yeah,
score on-
Wildlife Action Plan
Yeah.
scored high. It scored high on Nature Conservancy's resiliency map. It scored high on the Merrimack Partners Conservation Plan. It's a significant frontage along the General John Stark Scenic Byway, another plus. And it also extends conservation area. I mean, it immediately abuts the 177 acre Shost property that we previously conserved, along with the ones that are also abutting up along Snook Road.
So do you do all the application, David?
No,
Okay.
I work with the land trust.
Okay.
It's evolved back, when we started doing this years back. It was kind of a collaborative effort. We all worked on it together, and we would divide things up, and you write this section, I'll write that section. That's evolved now. The land trusts want to write it themselves.
Okay.
And
But without you, it's still.
well,
Well, you and your committee.
We provide data to them.
That's great.
They're going to write the grant proposal, so we feed them information and stuff that they may or may not have. And they write the grant, because then they can charge
Oh.
for writing the grant.
Okay.
And I don't say that to be negative. It's part of how the land trusts are funding themselves now. And those expenses that they charge does get wrapped up in the grant applications as well. So it's not like it's not costing us for it to work that way. So they know. Yeah, and it's good. It provides for a consistency. And they've been doing a terrific job on that, so.
Well, they're a great organization for us to be associated with, because we know when we first started on our own, it wasn't as successful.
All right, well, this one is with the Forest Society.
Oh, really?
This isn't the Piscataqua Land Conservancy, this is the Forest
Forestry
Society.
Society.
Ah,
Because the previous Shost project was also a Forest Society project, and back when we did that, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
2013, I mean, at that time, the desire was to do both parcels that the family owned. But it just seemed like it would be easier to divide it into two projects, because the first one was really focused on protecting the prime wetlands and the forests around that, whereas this one has a strong agricultural aspect to it. So in addition to the funding that we've been awarded from LCHIP, we've also are applying to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resource Conservation Service, and we've asked them for $200,000. There's also an application into Moose Plate, and will be an application to the Merrimack Valley Partners. We're pretty confident in all those. I think I'm very confident in all of them, so we'll see what happens.
wow.
And then we'll have a match from our land conservation fund, which at this point, it'll depend on what the total expenses come out to and all that, but it'll probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $100,000 from the Land Use Change Tax Conservation Fund.
What's in that fund now, David?
Huh?
What's in the fund now? What's the balance in the fund?
Well, we
I don't
didn't get
have
a,
it, is where we threw
That's all-
Ross
that's
in their
right.
meeting.
We can cover it.
it's like
Yeah.
around 260
Okay.
I
or
was
something
thinking
like
it was
that.
close.
So there's no problem
close to
covering it.
300.
No, we got it covered.
Good.
So it's going along good, and I anticipate it'll all go smoothly next year.
It's great. Really great.
So that's the update on that. And so then the stewardship, back to the stewardship. So last meeting, just got the discussion going, and spent a lot of time talking about the South Uncanunic parcels, of which there are so many, trying to make sense of it all. And I did go in, based on the information that Patty brought, we decided it made a lot of sense to just go into town hall and start going through the records. And so I did go in for, I don't know, 2-3 hours, not sure how long it was there. And went through the first pile. And that was very helpful and informative. But there's still a lot more to go. I haven't been back to follow up on that. But as it stands, this is just sort of my index to keep me track of where I am. I just mark them off with the color once I've resolved it. A little over half of them have been sorted out now.
Can you tell us what the blue, purple, and yellow are?
It's just,
Just you.
the blue are all from one big transfer,
Oh,
from
okay.
the Ralph Vogel deed.
Right.
The
okay.
yellow was another transfer. The purple ones are privately owned parcels.
Ah, okay.
So they're not conservation land. And so those are all accounted for. That's, everything purple is all the private
Are
ones.
they around the lake? Or is
Yeah,
that
there's
the
some,
top?
well, I'm focusing on the top right
Okay,
now,
the
but
top.
yeah, I've been, there are more down here that haven't been colored in. yet.
Okay.
I just started at the summit, worked my way down, work with gravity. And then the green are just because I was running out of colors. So everything else is gonna be green. Because these are more one-offs, but, yeah, I mean, it's coming together, and what I intend to do with this is make a report where we'll start with, well, here's our current map with our current map lot numbers, you know, and we can say, well, map 42, lot 42 is owned by the town of Goffstown Conservation Commission. It derived originally from plans, from the lot numbers in this original plan. And we'll have the book and page number, the reference of when it came to the town. So the whole idea is to make a paper trail showing all the properties that belong to the town, when we received them, so that we have it all in one big report that we can look at, so that we can then take further action. So there's 2 actions hopefully that we can take. The overwhelming majority of these lots, when they were transferred to the town, were transferred to Town of Goffstown Conservation Commission. It's stated explicitly that way. That's the overwhelming majority of them. Some of them were just transferred to the Town of Goffstown. Now it's all owned by the Town of Goffstown. So you might say, well, what difference does it make? Well, in the RSAs it does make a difference. There is a slight difference. There's more, conservation land can't be disposed of without the entire town voting to do so on a warrant article. So there's a little different degree of separation. But I think the biggest reason we want to sort all this out is we want to make them all consistent. So if we have, 400 that say Conservation Commission and 50 that just say the Town of Goffstown, then I would like to request that we have those 50
Transfer.
reassigned to the Conservation Commission so that they're all now legally in one category, the same box. Then, once they're all the same box, we should consolidate. So when we go to do stewardship on the South Mountain, some poor soul isn't going to be assigned, you got 800 lots you need to look at, no, it's going
Right.
to be,
Just a,
1, 2, 3, whatever the number is, number of big lots, and it'll make stewardship possible to be able to consolidate that. But I think to do that lot merger, we have to get them all in the same category. Whether that is absolutely 100% required, I don't know, but let's just try to do it properly and so that there won't be issues with it in the future, because when I'm dead and buried, I don't want people complaining that, you know what, this merger wasn't done right because Neiman really screwed up, and I don't want to be rolling in my grave. I want to, rest in peace. So
I was
let's
gonna
just do
say,
it right.
David, it took us how many years? 20 years or something to get around to doing this, so let's get it all done now, because otherwise it's another 20 years before we'll get back to it.
Let's get it all done and
Yeah.
double check ourselves at every step and
Yeah.
make sure we cross every T and dot every I and make it ironclad and correct. That's
So
the
does that
goal.
mean we're waiting on you to go back and spend
Well,
hours and hours in the,
The way we left it at the
coming.
last meeting was I started doing this and I said, all right, look, it looked like Patty's pointing us in the right direction here. Let me just go in and see if this is getting us the information, and I'll let everybody else know, and then people can go in and take turns.
okay,
That's probably gonna be confusing,
oh,
because everybody has to go in and figure out what it is they're supposed to be looking for and doing. So here's my proposal. I will continue on with this, but then the next steps and items assign to the rest of the committee. so that other work can be done in parallel. So I think that, and the whole point of the last meeting, for which I ranted about a lot, for those who weren't here, was that, look, we gotta start at the bottom and work our way up. I mean, we don't need to be worrying about how we're recording things or things like that at this point. The first thing we have to do is figure out what are all the lots that we're responsible for, what is the current state of them, and what can we actually do in each of those. And here's what I mean by that. For what we own, that's straightforward. But there's all these conservation easements that were created for the open space developments. And those have been assigned, some of them to the town, some of them to the town's Conservation Commission. I even saw one that said Planning Board. And they're in all sorts of states in terms of the terminology, how they're worded, how they're written. But what we need to do is we need to get a copy of every one of those conservation easement needs. We have to have the actual copy, and we have to read it, because we have to know what are the terms, what can be enforced, what can't be enforced, who is allowed, because some of them will specify, you know, that some of them will say we're assigning this to the town to be monitored by the town's Conservation Commission, or it might not say who it is, or someone to be determined by the town select board, whatever. We just need to have all the details and understand for every one of those, because we can't do anything until we know what the actual legal language says. So the assignment is to get a copy of every one of these conservation easement deeds. And when we get a copy, we need to get it scanned into an electronic form, a PDF, not just, you know, bring in a piece of paper. We need it in a PDF so that, well, if you're going to go out and do an inspection, you can just email you the PDF, you've got the document. If you want to go into town and get a printed copy as well, that's fine. But we need to have that flexibility, and it can be stored both ways. But having it in the electronic form is critical. I mean, this is almost 2024, so we can do better than 1960s technology here.
Well, I don't know if everyone can do better, but anyway. David, Patty, is that something that so we have access to that here in the,
Well, if we have the easements here, the hard copies, otherwise we have to go on the registry to look. But if we do have them, I can scan them in and save them as a
But-
PDF.
okay.
We have a lot of information here to start with, because, you know, I've been looking at this for years. I mean, Jason and I first started
thought Jason
looking
had
into
done
all
it.
this
Yeah.
and started keeping records and keeping a spreadsheet. So at the previous meeting, I passed out a copy of that spreadsheet that was just a summary of properties, which, I didn't want to go over reading during the meeting, drive everybody crazy. But for those who weren't, you were the only one probably that wasn't here. I don't think you were here either. I don't remember. Were you here last
You were
meeting?
here.
I think
Sorry.
it said in the minutes I was, David.
Okay, then you were here. Well, I don't know when we were taking the roll call. You
In
didn't
fact,
seem to be here.
I made the motion to adjourn. I saw that. Okay.
So anyway, there was a number of categories in here. The first, I'll just give this.
Oh, I looked, because I got a
Okay.
copy mailed to me.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about the land owned by the land trusts or private land with land trust easements, because they take care of all the stewardship. That's done for us. That's a big plus one of many big pluses for working with the land trust.
Right.
And town land, yeah, we will need to deal with that, but we pretty much have those records. It's really getting down to these open space developments that we have to sort this
I think
out. So they were all listed in a section here, one under open space developments and one under open space condominiums, but that's a little hard to read, so here, I've made it simpler for everybody. So
think that was when the town first started doing the, subdivisions and then using land that wasn't really, anyway, they were allowed to have a certain amount of land that they could use. And I think the town had ownership of them, or the subdivision did, until we had these elementary school situation where that was conservation land, but also had grants from the state, I think, or federal grant, and so they were able to use it. And that's when we then hooked up with the Piscataqua, or, the, right, another land association.
Sorted by date.
Okay.
Okay, these are not sorted by date. In fact, they're not sorted in any real way, it's just the way they were entered into the spreadsheet.
I see. So,
So you have, there's 21 developments here. There's 16 open space subdivision developments. And then there's 5 condominium developments. And they have associated with them conservation easement documents. So for each one, I've listed the map and lot number, so you can find it and see where it is in Goffstown. For most of these, looks like all of them, we have a plan number. And if we're really lucky, every one of those plans will be on file here in town. And that will be easy to find. The plan will be important because that'll show us the details of where the conservation open space area is within the subdivision.
We file them by map and lot. The plan number's the registry's file system. So, but we
Oh,
have it by
okay.
map and lot.
All right, well then, the book and page number that follows, that is the registry's book and page number. So if we don't have an easement locally in town, that's where we'll get it,
Yeah.
from the Hillsborough County Registry. And then just general location, some of them have a more detailed address than others. Mostly they just say what road they're on or what road they're off of. Who the developer was, if that's helpful, the approval date, and how big is the open space area covered by the easement.
So,
And some of these have missing information, you'll see a few blank spots, especially when you get down into the condo one. So we didn't have all the information, but I mean, this is an enormous amount of information to get anyone started.
David, so, and it seemed to me back at that time, so who's responsible for checking on, I mean, some of these, was it the association that was supposed to be, or did we finally decide that it should be under?
Nothing has been done, that's why we're having this whole discussion. There is no stewardship out there.
Okay, so.
This has been completely ignored and glossed over for years,
So this is.
and we're starting to tackle it now.
Right,
So, most of these open space areas are probably going to be owned by, nearly all of them, by the homeowners association associated with that development. We've had a couple of open space projects where we really pushed hard for Land Trust to own it. Blackbriar was the first one, and I would say
Right.
that's the most successful open space subdivision the town has ever done, because that land is now part of the preserve, owned and operated by the PLC that everybody can go enjoy. That should be the way we do it going forward, when it makes sense to do so. Maybe sometimes these open space areas aren't all that much and wouldn't matter that much, but when it's a nice piece of property like that, that's how it should be done, in my opinion. And we certainly have proven that that's a very successful outcome. Yeah, so what I was hoping is that the rest of you can split this list up. I was assuming there'd be 7 of us, there's 21 properties, every person could be responsible for tracking down 3 of them.
oh, so you're saying tracking them down,
Yeah, I'm saying I'm giving you homework.
paperwork, but not going out and doing the survey or looking at it yet?
No, first
Not
let's
talking
get the
about-
records.
Right.
We don't know
Okay.
what we can and cannot do.
It's a
Right.
documentation effort.
It's a documentation.
Right,
we can't do the stewardship, and we can't, until we know
Yeah.
what the terms are.
So you want the written easements on these?
Absolutely, the entire
Well,
easement.
A
And I
lot
want
of
it
them
not
we
just
probably
to,
have upstairs.
and that'll be
Yeah.
great, that'll make it fast and easy. But this isn't, the point of this isn't to dump everything on you, Patty. The point of this is
No, that we,
to
Share the load.
get the rest of the commission to share the load.
Yeah.
And it may be that your resolution will be to go in the office and ask Patty for help, but I can't control how you do it. I'm just asking that, you know, everybody
Did you
jump
want-
in
If
and
we have
help
them, I
do
can
it.
scan them and
David?
email them.
I'm gonna volunteer, Jean and I can come into the office and and work with Patty and just, I mean, if you're saying divide it up to 3, why don't we'll just take a look at all of them? Is it gonna?
If you wanna do that,
It's a
that'd
great
be
idea.
great.
I mean, I think it's just.
This is really not long.
Yeah, right. There you go.
I want
Volunteer
cookies.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Jump on it when you can, right?
Now, Jean, are you gonna bring cookies?
I'm kidding. It's
Okay.
Christmas.
Yeah.
It's funny, I look at this list and I can remember every single one of these. Some of them I
Yeah.
get a pretty good
Morgan
warm feeling
Estates
about,
sometimes
others
use
I
ones on
shudder looking at
Yeah, I
it.
was
Going,
just-
"Oh, that thing was a mess.
You know, and you know what I'm also
Yeah, but I
thinking,
don't know how Morgan
and
State's
I don't
would
know
have
where
one. I
we're,
didn't know
where
it
we're
did.
going after this, but if we actually do go into the field at some point and we start surveying this or checking on it, should we be thinking about discs that we're gonna be putting up so that, I'm just thinking of, you know,
Then when we get into the stewardship, that
That's
can be
yes.
an important first part of it, will be to mark the boundaries.
right.
Yep.
I mean, I really think we're gonna have that.
Because even with the land that we, the commission owns, the only land that we own that is where all the boundaries are marked is all the land around the Bay Shell Marsh.
Yeah.
Because we did that.
I only did part of it.
Okay. All right, we'll try and get this done before the next meeting, which is in January, right?
So what
Yeah,
we're
let's wait
saying
till
is
after
you and,
Christmas.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
you
yeah.
and Jane will take a stab at it at first and knock off
Afterwards.
as many as
Yes.
you can, and if you need more help, then we'll bring
Right.
more members.
At our
pitch in.
January meeting.
Collis is volunteering for that.
Well, let me know.
Well,
I'll give you guys a hand.
I was gonna give
I
him
have
a
winter
pass as
break,
the select
so
board
that-
rep.
I mean, I think this, if you want just the written easement languages, a lot of them we already have.
Well,
I mean, it's
we'll-
pretty
we'll
easy, I
come-
just pull them out, scan them in.
Yeah, we'll come up in and, you know.
The
go
newer
over-
ones are scanned anyway, but not the.
Okay, all
These
right.
exist in perpetuity, ours is just as long as,
Never heard of Gorham Pond
They should be in
condominiums, that's a new one.
perpetuity, but again, that's
That's
actually,
also-
that's
Yeah,
exactly
I
the
was-
sort of
I
thing we have to
didn't
determine.
realize what line.
Because
But
it's how the
Cherokee-
document is written.
I know
Yeah.
Cherokee is.
But the details,
Yeah.
it's the details matter.
Cherokee's down across from.
Because we can't make any
Dunkin'
assumptions
Donuts.
about any of these
Because they
without
don't-
actually reading
I
the
don't think
easement.
there's no.
that could even just say for a certain period of time.
Neither
Yeah.
on,
Till hands change,
Hot
yeah.
Orchard Highlands.
There may be language that says
I
the
didn't
only
maybe
person
Cobble Creek.
permitted
I
to
didn't
inspect the
think these
land
were
is a
open space either.
select board
I didn't think
member
this one
whose
was.
first name starts with a C. I don't,
Yeah, you don't know.
Well,
You don't know till
I
you
think
read
the big
it.
thing was
Don't
that in the beginning, I think it was all transferred to the associations. And, you know, I mean, I hate to say it,
but the associations own the land, they don't own the conservation easement. That would make no sense at all.
no, I
Not the
understand, but I think they were
conservation
supposed, I mean, I think originally that was the thought that they were overseeing it, and they
No.
really, you
Was
know,
no
it just
easement on
doesn't.
Now, all the associations mainly fall apart eventually.
Right,
So you're sure that these condos have open space easements on them?
These are the book and page numbers I got. I'm not saying that they won't find a mistake in this list that.
Okay.
We'll
that we
just
got
go
Because
through
something
it all.
I'm kind of
confused.
surprised to see like Cherokee, it's a very small condominium behind Educare.
Yeah,
They don't like have a lot of land.
Yeah,
it is
So
very small.
I'd be surprised there is one. And then the other one, I'm kind of Morgan Estates.
I would, that's what we have on
Yeah.
record, that's what we know.
That's
So
what we're
we're
checking
If
on?
this is a mistake and this book and page number turns out to be just title of the deed for the shared open space area rather than an easement.
Oh, I get you, that really.
But I think these will,
Yeah, so we're
I
just
think the
gonna check.
overwhelming majority
Right.
of these, if not all, will in fact be easements.
right.
And by the way, there were other easements that aren't in the list. I mean, there was, all the stuff that went on behind the Shell station. A little bit of land that was path going up to it. I don't have the records for that, even though we talked about it not that long ago. It's not in the list anywhere.
How did you find these two?
Map 556.
We just, this is just over the years, just, looking something up, keeping track of it, keeping records.
I think Jason really, there was a
Well,
young.
Jason and I collaborated a lot
Yeah.
when we were forming the open space committee, and we
That
went
was
out searching
years
to find
ago.
this info.
So it's
Yeah.
possible there's more easements that aren't in this, like, aren't categorized or you didn't know about? They're on here,
It's-
they're not on there.
Well, I know there's at least that one behind the Shell station.
And that one I
there
probably
might
can
be-
find quickly.
There's
Yeah,
not many though.
Because
but
I
there's
even know
not,
the
not
map
gonna
of
be
mine.
That one
many.
behind the trail, wasn't that just like a trail that was
Well,
supposed
it
to
went
be
up
a-
and then it
Oh,
went out a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that's our job.
They did
It's
that
like an easement gets written with the town,
towards the
It's,
tower,
yeah,
Okay.
so it's,
tabulated.
I know the main
Yeah,
lot
that's
number
right, there should be
56.
easement on that, because that was for conservation.
Yeah, and they have a
Well,
little
these
access
were
all the way
created
up
by
Walk
the
to
planning
Tatro
board,
Drive.
and they,
It was terrible.
as part of their
Yes.
approval of subdivision, they
It's
create
all-
this.
It's all
And
then
random
nobody pays
face, it's,
attention to
yeah,
it.
it's really terrible, yeah.
It was.
But why wouldn't we
Walking
go through
down.
the effort? I guess it's just legalese at that point.
Because there's never been any one group, any one committee, nobody has been assigned to doing the stewardship in the town. That's just the way it is. And I don't know that necessarily it should be just us. Certainly for the land that we own as Conservation Commission owned land, it should be. Absolutely, we should be responsible, but for all these subdivisions,
Well,
we
that'll
we
be,
didn't,
right, I think that's something that,
it could be a shared responsibility, but if nothing else, then we better at least take oversight for it, because somebody doesn't take oversight, nothing happens.
but I think the biggest, the lesson we had, when we started all this, Billy, it wasn't really, the town had never, well, they took in the mountain, but then there was just nothing, and then these new little subdivisions came up, they weren't, anyway, we were kind of new territory when we got into this, years and years ago. And I think the one big lesson was that we didn't have any, I'm gonna say, legal clout behind us when one piece of property was, I'm thinking of where the elementary school was.
The kindergarten.
And the town didn't want,
That's because it just wasn't done properly.
well, okay, but that was also why
That's-
we went in with the,
That property was purchased with grant money that was obtained for it to be conservation land. I think it's pretty clear what the outcome should have been. However, that was not a successful argument in court because the documents weren't recorded properly. They weren't recorded as being conservation land, they were just
Right.
land
Town.
transferred to the
Right.
town. This is why I'm making such a big deal about we need to get these things precise. We need to have every I dotted, every T crossed, because if you don't, all your effort is for nothing. You gotta do it right. And we have to be doing the stewardship, because if you're not doing
Right.
the stewardship, your claim to it being conservation land weakens and weakens and weakens over the years. How are you gonna go in and say, oh my God, I just noticed there's this huge transgression on this piece of conservation land. What was the state of it before? Do you have
Somebody's gonna say,
records?
well, that's your fault because you weren't out there
Yeah.
inspecting.
You say, well, no, that's been like that all the time.
Yeah, we have no idea.
We have to have, the initial conditions need to be described, and then we have to have follow-up regular inspections. That's what stewardship's all about, and it has not been done, and we need to start.
well, we're setting on that track right now.
Yeah.
So let me throw this out there too. We talked about budget a little bit. Maybe we need to consider in future years budgeting some money to contract. We don't have to do all of this. I mean, we can contract, or we can actually have somebody on retainer that, like DPW does. When they've got an issue they can't deal with, they've got a short list of engineers that they can call and say, hey, we need help. with this one specific item. Say, hey, we got this one quirky little easement that we need some help on. It's something to consider. It helps take the burden off us for some of those that are really complicated or we don't actually know what's going on. So it's something to consider.
Yes,
You know, the town says we don't have any industrial commercial land, but we're rich in open space and recreation lands. Well, if the town really thinks that is that important, then we ought to be committing some funds
Funds.
to identifying, preserving, and restoring those areas in
Yeah.
town.
and that may well come to transpire, but I mean, first we need to get our footing, get things sorted out, find out where we are, find out what needs to be done.
I agree,
And
that's the first step.
questions like that
I can't
will
help
come up
but look
later.
further.
But getting
But you're
a
right.
solid understanding
That's the
of
sell point
everything,
of this
getting
town.
the basis set up for all this, we need to do that. That can't be outsourced, because we just think, well, we got this big mess, we'll hire somebody to fix it. That ain't never gonna happen. That's been attempted and it didn't work, did it? So, and we can do this. This is not rocket science, it's just, have to do a little bit of work outside of these meetings.
Okay. So we have,
Okay.
yeah? Anything
Anything
else?
David?
At the previous meeting, when we also discussed, I said as another example of a stewardship activity in parallel is start dealing with the 2 trashed cabins on the lots up on South Mountain. So we had 2 work days. The first one, Charlie Bedard, and I'm feeling really bad, he brought a friend along from Goffstown, I've already forgotten his name. But Charlie and friend and myself, we went out that morning and we cleaned up, mostly we cleaned up the trash that was around the cabin that's more intact. Because it was just litter and bottles and cans and stuff falling off from the cabin. So we cleaned up all the grounds around it. I was also going to do over at the scenic area, a short distance away, had been a lot of trash there, but when we walked over there, it was cleaned up.
Oh,
So I don't know, some good soul had already done that part. That was pretty gratifying to see.
That's cool.
And so we also pulled off like all the aluminum frames from the broken windows to be recycled, and hauled a load of trash off to the transfer station. And then that following Saturday, we had the second work day with Andrew and Lauren and myself. Was there anybody else there? Or was it just the 3 of us?
No, with a truck.
Oh, and Steve Grant
yeah.
George. And for that one, we went to the cabin, which looks like it was actually a lot bigger originally than a log cabin as well, that had completely collapsed. It's just debris on the ground, and most of the wood is rotting and returning to the earth, and that's great. We just let that happen. However, there's a lot of asphalt
oh.
shingles and stuff like that, not so great. So we were pulling up a lot of that and putting it in trash bags, and we didn't get all of it by any means, but we took out a truckload of trash.
So had people
Yeah.
cleared the cabins all out and then they just left them, or were they abandoned and there were furniture and stuff like that in there, or? I'm just curious.
They're just abandoned. The one is completely disintegrated. It's just a pile of rubble of rotting wood and asphalt shingles for the most
We're
part.
hoping to find some treasures in there, but
We pulled out some big chunks of metal.
yeah, there's like a
Like
couple
that.
bed frames.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's one
really?
bed
So
frame we
they're-
didn't
yeah.
take yet because it's a tree growing through it, so we need to go back with
Yeah,
hacksaw for that.
So they,
Not strong
so
enough.
they were abandoned with furniture in them at one time.
May
Some
have been,
kind of
but
furniture.
that was many decades ago.
That's what I mean, many
And
times.
the other one, you know, it's the walls are still standing. The walls were covered with cedar shingles, and that cedar's in great shape.
Oh, wow.
But the roof is caved in. Half of it's already caved in. The floor is caving in. It's completely covered with graffiti. And, you know, kids are going inside this rotting, falling structure and painting more graffiti. So I would call it a pretty serious safety hazard and liability to the
So
town.
who owns that one? Do we know who owns that one? Does the town own that one?
Yes.
Well, then, it is a big liability.
Yes.
Right.
We ought to do something about that.
Well, that's what we're doing.
Well,
And
more aggressively, like a burn exercise.
no burns.
Why?
It's out in the middle of the woods. We're gonna set the forest, you kill a lot of trees trying to burn that place down.
Well, I don't know.
You
I've
would
been
be
out there,
burning
but
up a lot of asphalt
I
and
don't know
putting,
that, maybe, okay? So-
and then when you're done with it, you've got a bigger mess to clean up because of all the non-burnable fiberglass and all that other crap that'd be mixed in with the rotten mess.
Just brainstorming options for
I know.
lightening the load.
This was brought up before, and I'm trying to explain why that would not be a good option. Would also not be accessible by fire truck.
Oh, yeah, that would not be good.
So one thing is the electric line is still attached to it. It had
Oh,
electricity.
Jesus.
Oh, it's not live.
Okay.
The meter box is dangling off the wall, and I followed the line all the way back to the pole, and it's disconnected at the transformer. Transformer's still being used by another property.
Is
that
this
right?
up by where the towers are?
Yeah.
Yes.
Was that the Allen one? There was some that actually built out, they,
Well, the
Alan
kids,
was right.
yeah.
The
the
kids,
kids-
right,
the-
yeah,
the
right.
The
kids-
other one's gone, I think.
Okay.
These properties were acquired by us in 2016.
Oh, okay.
okay, 26.
Did someone just
Yeah,
build a
this is
house
transfer.
on 20, like,
The Allen?
No, these properties
yeah.
years and years ago. These were the many lots that were sold off and people built cabins.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I remember one that was done up there that,
It was right on the
They-
cog
they
rail,
live in
right,
there.
right off
Allen's
the-
was right on the,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
on the trail.
So anyway, to follow up on that, so after we cleaned up, had the cleanup day, I went to, was taking the trash anyway to the transfer station, and I went in and talked to Adam Jacobs. So the first thing, get that electric line removed, taken off the poles and everything, just get it completely removed. That's not something we do, that's something Eversource does. So Adam was putting in a work order to Eversource. Well, I don't know. They may have been out there by already, for all I know. He says sometimes he puts in work orders and he doesn't know himself because they don't necessarily report it when they've done it. So that's step one, Eversource takes the line down. Adam was going to walk out and evaluate the site and see I think what equipment he could get in there. Get something in to demolish it, a big shovel or something to knock it down. And also to see if he could get a hook to grab it and pick up the bulk of it and put it in a dump truck. Whether he could get any of those pieces of equipment in, he was going to go out and evaluate. And then he'll have to go to the select board and get permission to do that. So that's where it stands as far as removing it, so.
I think it's really important to do though, to get rid of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I
now
agree.
this piece is not, I'm thinking of one of the ones that was up on Shirley Hill. And it's not, it's with, I think, the forestry. It's part of the farm, by the Shirleys, and there's a well house there. Anyway, it had been opened and the kids were using it a lot and to kind of party in. And then they came and they did a tremendous job of closing it up. And they just rip it right open again. And actually there was a mother and a couple of kids in there at one point that were, and then they had to get, I know, and so these kind of things really have to be, I think, really taken down.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure nobody will be living in this cabin.
Well, this is,
Doesn't look like it.
this is,
Not
you know
unless
what
you
I'm
want
talking
to
about?
lay down on a
Where
rock
the-
wood and have it collapse, but
Not by your house.
it is a safety hazard for
But, yeah,
kids are
There's
going
a
in.
Mayplay shack down there.
Oh, is there?
Even
Okay,
if we can get the inorganic materials, asphalt shingles off and then go in with a backhoe and just crush it up so it'll return to the earth quicker. But Adam will give us good advice on that.
Yeah. I guess before he'd even gone to see it, his first thought was probably we just want to grab it all up and dispose of it as construction debris.
Yeah,
Not worry about sorting it out.
yeah, in the
But
woods.
in
Yeah.
the meantime, we pulled out all the aluminum and a bunch of other metals that we took and threw in the metal recycling. So we got got a truckload of metal out of there,
wow.
as well as a bunch of trash bags with the asphalt from the other cabin. And, we'll follow up with that again, probably in the spring, get rid of even more of the asphalt from the other one. But because, it's all freezing up now, so. And so then if Adam can get in with equipment and demolish it all, then probably we would go back out in the spring and just clean up any final small debris that's laying around.
Anything else?
Nope.
All set? Okay, somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Sure, I move to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposing? Abstaining?